What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's your man, Joe Blackburn, and you are listening to WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. Today, we have a special show, and I'll get to that in a second. As the space has kind of grown, as the space has matured, it seems to me that people forget like all the building blocks it took to get here. And yeah, the bad apples, they kind of shine the brightest, unfortunately, and like in the news, because that's what you click on. That's what I click on too. Like, don't get me wrong, we're humans. We like drama. But, oftentimes, and I don't want to say the word forgotten, that probably isn't the right lead in, but, we fail to recognize the companies that have built, the foundation of what's to come. And there's probably, a good 50 to 75, maybe even 100 companies that fall in line of, that have really done something for the space. When I think of those strong brand names, then when I think of those people that really were influential in the start of, the crypto space as we know it, there's really a top five. And one of those is Ledger. Today, we have the honor, we're going to have Demetrios Skalkotos join us here shortly. And he's the head of the Ledger Global Vault, and he's going to explain that in a second, because obviously I'm pretty new to what all that entails. But, I really want to make sure that, as this interview starts, you recognize these are the types of companies that I want to have on. Like this is what I want to hear. This is how I want to hear it. I want to hear it from the horse's mouth, from credible companies that have watched this space, that have watched the bad players, the bad apples, and have and really ultimately, brought tremendous credibility to the space because they've done things right. And so that's the conversation I want to have today with Demetrios, and he's going to be able to explain a little bit about what they got going on. I know they got some big news. We'll hit that probably pretty quickly once we get on. But as always, I want to give a big shout out to the production team, Jim. You guys have seen him on the live show. Pat, Patrick McLean, Mousebelt as a whole. Mousebelt's doing some huge things, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. We got Ashley Meredith will be joining me hopefully some point this week, maybe even on a live. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and break it in with Demetrios. I'm going to bring him on here shortly. What's up, Demetrios? Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Joe. Thanks very much. Really appreciate being on the show.
No, dude, it's an honor of mine. Demetrios, as you heard in the intro, very fond of Ledger. The credibility that they brought to the space has been, rivaled by very few entities, probably more so. It's been a staple. It's been a standard at this point to a lot of ways that this entire space has learned to grow. And so let's go ahead and hear from you, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. No, thank you again for the opportunity. Appreciate it. So I've been with Ledger just over a year, came from the traditional financial services space, spent considerable amount of time on both US-based exchanges, Intercontinental Exchange, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ, running software as a service businesses for them, and really excited to be in this digital asset space, and really articulating and educating the marketplace on an enterprise technology solution to secure digital assets.
No, awesome, man. And you bring up some big terms there, and I hear intercontinental exchange, which obviously a lot of us are familiar with, in the crypto space as the head of back, but also as the rest of the world knows it, New York Stock Exchange falls underneath that umbrella. And that's a lot of big. That's pretty impressive, Demetrios, to say the least. But let's kind of talk about where you stand right now. Who are you? What do you do in the space, and what does that mean?
So Ledger, if I can take a step back, Joe, just to give you a sense, Ledger has huge ambitions as a technology provider, a security technology provider. And you're right, we've been in business now for 5 years. We just passed our 5-year anniversary as a corporation. Thank you. And we all, as everybody knows, Ledger, we got our start on the retail side, developing the Nano S, and then we launched earlier this year the Nano X, which is a little bit bigger version, more storage, bigger screen size, and more coin support. And we really attribute our success to our customer adoption and really trying to meet our customers' needs and really trying to make life easier for them to secure digital assets for them. We felt the need and saw the need early on in the growth of Ledger to say, look, there needs to be an enterprise component to this. We were being asked by our customers to say, look, your retail product's fantastic, but I need something that has more governance protocols to it. And that's why we got into this enterprise space, to really help call it the trading community, the asset management community, the exchange community, and the banks and trust community, a more robust platform that allows them to secure their digital assets that for themselves or provide a service into the marketplace.
Yeah, and obviously there's some big news that just came out, and by the time the folks listen to this with the podcast, it'll be a few days later. But last week you guys announced some big things, and I'll let you obviously get into that in a minute. But prior to telling us that stuff, Demetrios, tell me a little bit. What does it mean when someone says, the enterprise, solutions here, or the enterprise aspect compared to what most of us know, as you already explained, Ledger, Nano S or the X as noted. But what does enterprise actually do? And of course, you just did make some notes of some of the things, but a lot of people don't really understand what that means.
The Ledger Vault is a multi-authorization wallet management solution for the financial services space. So it really provides a platform to allow customers to design their wallet structure to the specifications of their risk tolerance. If they need a wallet structure that is relatively warm and hot, or if they need something that's relatively cold, they can design that. We put the technology into the customer's hands. They control 100% of their keys. They have instant access to their funds. And we provide them the technology to run their business as they see fit, as if they want to secure assets for themselves, or if they want to be a regulated entity and offer a custodial service in the marketplace. We really just want to be the digital plumbing for the custodial space, the exchange space, to secure assets, because we want this space to move forward to the next level and become more mainstream.
Sure. No, great explanation. What would be and obviously this is just an example. There, probably specifics wouldn't be appropriate here for obvious reasons. But what would be an example of an entity that would want to use your services?
So we've got great diversification. Since we went generally available in January of this year, we're approaching 50 customers that are using the Enterprise Vault, and they range from crypto hedge funds to family offices to exchanges, both medium and smaller exchanges. We just announced that about a month or so ago that Bitstamp will be a customer using the Ledger Vault as part of their solution. We also have payment companies, and we also have traditional trust companies and banks that are offering a custody service into the marketplace.
And so for those listening, I think when he says 50 customers, the amount of cryptocurrency that's running through those 50 customers can probably exceed a lot of money at times, a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of crypto. And that's obviously an assumption, and I don't want to speak as if I know, but I would assume that at least, right?
We've got a lot of folks definitely engaged with the platform and using it to its capabilities. Yeah.
Well, and that goes to the next point, custody services, I mean, this is a lot of things that are happening. How would one protect their money? Like, how would one protect their crypto assets, their digital assets, and I know you guys have some big news, and clearly, as most of us understand, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have a brief or minimal understanding at the smallest amount, that at least you understand what a ledger is or what a wallet does, right? But on a higher level, it can get a little bit more complicated. We can get into that in a minute. But there's finally been with you guys some really cool stuff that you've been able to talk about. I'm sure it's been in the works for some time. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you guys just announced last week?
Yeah, we just announced last week that we're procuring a pretty sizable insurance, crime insurance policy on the Ledger Vault platform. Again, Ledger Vault we're not a custodian, we're not a regulated entity, we're a technology provider. And I think we're one of the very few technology providers in the space that procured insurance. Our customers were asking for it. They said, look, we need you to make life easier for us. We don't want to put the onus on each individual customer. So we engaged with the insurance providers, the world's largest insurance broker, Marsh, and also the top A+ rated underwriters in the space, Arch, to come develop a customized program for Ledger and for the Vault platform. And we announced that last week, to where we will be procuring $150 million of pooled insurance for our customers to participate on. God forbid they have a claim that they want to make. Now, the other cool thing is that the customers can then procure their own insurance on top of our insurance for themselves. So they benefit from our platform, and then they can also get a named insurance specifically for themselves. And I think as a technology provider, we make life a lot easier for customers to adapt our platform and start using our platform much more expeditiously. It took us 8 months to get through this process. So if I can save 8 months from a customer or a potential customer going through technology and security diligence of how they're securing digital assets, I think will really save them a lot of time, effort, and money. The only thing the customer needs to do now, if they want to procure their own insurance, is go through a less than a month process of how they're using the platform and the personal security devices and how they're backing up with their crypto steals that we're providing, that the customer is using as a backup to their platform. And that really helps them save a lot of time, effort, and money. So we're trying to get further adoption by doing what's right for the customer base and our prospects, for them to start using the Ledger Vault platform to secure their assets.
Sure. And you said, this has kind of been in the work for 8 months or so. I'm actually really impressed how quickly you guys were able to kind of help them through this, because this seems like a process. There's like, the crypto space is ever evolving. There's all these different things that can happen. I mean, it's endless. Like it's something that I think as a insurance, company, I would be really, I pull my hair out trying to figure it out. I mean, did these people have a lot of experience in crypto prior to?
Yes, I think the folks have had experience, but again, the space is evolving. They may have had a certain view of the space. They all bring in their own technology consultants to be a part of this security evaluation process, to make sure that they understand, what our engineering team and security teams are articulating about how we secure the keys and how we provide a complete technology stack and provide a very secure encrypted environment for folks to conduct their business. So it's always an educational process. It's always an evolution. And we're glad to see that traditional insurance provider that has traditionally written insurance for things that have been more cold storage related, to really adopt and be comfortable with the Vault technology in moving that industry forward.
I'm sure, and that's really impressive, and I love hearing that. As a huge proponent of mass adoption, especially for the major digital assets that exist, the Bitcoins, the Ethereums, the et ceteras, those are really, put the ability to be confident in crypto. Obviously, the price does fluctuate, and that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But the consistency of these products and this technology has been really second to none when it comes to any type of alternative currency than that we consider fiat and the U.S. dollar, among all the other major currencies out there. Like this, to me, right now, as we're at the beginning, the cusp of this great technological movement, this misunderstanding of what crypto, well, maybe not even misunderstanding. A lot of people's understandings of what cryptocurrency was accurate, 5, 6, 7 years ago. But today it is very different, and they don't understand that blockchain is evolving to a certain level. And I say this all the time. I probably said it on 4 or 5 of my podcasts. Today we're talking about currency movements. Tomorrow we're talking about the deed of your home, right? Or tomorrow we're talking about, any digitally, movable, how we go to the notary clerk here. I'm from the down south. I assume that everybody else still has notary clerks, but I can go find the closest notary clerk. They can notarize it. Well, that should be on the blockchain. That should be able to be verified. If you lose your notarized piece of paper, and they don't remember, or they lose theirs, nobody has any record of it. The ledgers that existed yesterday, they are going to be implemented into the blockchain. This custodial issue that is going to exist for a lot of people needs to be solved by credible companies. And I think Ledger's probably going to lead the way in that. If they're not, I know there's a lot of, hard work that goes into being able to maintain these things. But let me ask you, to me, Ledger is so scalable just because of the side of the industry you're in. What does the future look like for Ledger right now in the Global Vault?
So again, first and foremost, really think of Ledger in all phases of our business: retail, institutional, and even on the Internet of Things type of capability, where we have some folks using our technology. We're first and foremost a security technology company, and we want to provide comfort and ease of use for any critical digital asset. We want to secure any critical digital asset. We're not going to discern this, that, or the other. Any critical digital asset that has been digitized, we want to secure it and make it safe for the user base. So whether they're a deed, as you mentioned, to your real estate, to the next coin that's being developed, or the next application that's being developed, if it's a critical digital asset, we want to secure it. And that's really our approach from a retail perspective, institutional perspective, and even the evolving market of the Internet of Things.
Have you seen the interest from outside starting to pick up, or how has it been slowing down with the rest of the market? What's the view from your side look like?
From an institutional perspective, we continue to see engagement and adoption. Look, you have some of the big technology companies, making announcements and moving into the space. You've got some of the really big legitimate exchanges, as we discussed earlier, really moving into the space and doing some wonderful things. So again, that helps legitimize the space. That helps to make it more mainstream. And all those things are good, right? So it is going to be an evolution. It's going to take a great deal of time for it to become completely mainstream. There's obviously some hurdles that we need to overcome, but from an underlying technology perspective, security is paramount, and that's where Ledger comes into play. So whether you want to secure your assets from your own individual perspective, or you want to secure your entity because you're an exchange or a proprietary trading firm or a bank or a trust company, and you're offering a service into the marketplace, we feel that we're going to be the digital plumbing to offer security at scalability to all those entities.
Yeah, I love it. As someone who's involved in the community, and I mean, I'm guilty of this myself at times, but when I say the words mass adoption, to a lot of people, what that means is Bitcoin's $1 million. That's mass adoption to them, right? I mean, they forget about all those steps in between. And, I look at Ledger as a critical entity for allowing the result of mass adoption, which hopefully then is Bitcoin to $1 million. We'll have that conversation later. But, before that, though, as noted, things have to happen and have to happen in a really large way. I don't think most people recognize the fear that companies may have stepping into this space or utilizing it, even if it would make it easier for them, based off of the ability for the security to be a huge, not just an issue, but to literally happen. Like, I mean, we see, if we got exchanges still getting hacked, right? I mean, like, that's a problem. And without necessary, entities like, the Ledger Vault and things that kind of fall in line with that, we're not going anywhere else. I mean, these things have to happen first. They've got to make it where other institutions at a high level can utilize the blockchain, make it easy. What has been the biggest obstacle, not only for Ledger Vault, but really even for the public maybe to even see is are they correlated at all? Or is it, completely separate from your problems? Obviously on a technological level, it's probably different than what the public sees, but what's the obstacles that you guys have had to overcome or may still have to?
Yeah, no, there's obstacles each and every day. There's obviously, depending upon the country that you're operating in, there's regulatory guidelines or regulatory ambiguity. And I think the regulatory aspect of things is something that, we take really seriously as a global enterprise company, that we want to make sure that we're doing our part in joining our other peers in the space to educate and have a dialogue with the regulators to make sure that they're understanding the technology that we're bringing to the forefront and how it can be adopted into their thinking moving forward. So that's a component of it. Also, folks, traditionally think of Ledger as a retail, hardware wallet provider, security provider, and that's true in case that we've sold over 1.6 million of our Nano devices. We're clearly the top provider on the retail cold storage hardware wallet space, and we want to be that dominant player on the enterprise space too as well. Just launching this year and having 50 customers. So it's always constant education, articulating the technology, articulating the security ramification, the governance layers and protocols, and then the regulatory component to it. Again, we're not a regulated entity, we're a tech provider, but everybody that's interacting and using our platform has some touch points within the regulation community, and they need to make sure that the platforms that they're using comply with what they need.
I mean, Demetrios, I'm proud of you, but I don't envy you. This is an undertaking, right? I I'm very, very, confident that Ledger Vault and Ledger as an entity as a whole, are more than capable and have proven to be such. But man, like this is a burden. I can't imagine being, overseeing this, and so congratulations, and I'm sorry at the same time, but I'm sure that you can say it's okay. I mean, obviously you're still there and you're enjoying it. But let's talk a little bit about before you got to Ledger. You've been very experienced. You have a lot of different contacts, and you have a lot of people around you. I'm sure that you've worked with, and your network seems to be quite large. What is your view from, like, what is their view of what you're doing now? Did when you left, ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, or when you left some of your other, areas, or your friends have seen that were they like, what are you doing? Or are you crazy? Or were they like, wow, tell me more?
I get the question all the time, is like, how did you get into it? And not more, why did you get into it, but how did you get into it? And look, it's great to be a part of a emerging technology. It's great to be a part of a security company that has huge aspirations, and be a part of building something, and building a team, and building a business. So those are the questions that I usually get from what you would call the traditional financial services or exchange space folks. But they're aware. They're paying a lot more attention to whether it's the data aspect of things, the trading aspects of things, the digital aspects of things, digitizing of the world aspects of things. So again, everything that's happening and moving this asset class forward is continuing to evolve to be more mainstream.
So did they come to you, or did you go to them before you worked for Ledger?
I actually had an old colleague of mine that I worked with at NASDAQ said, hey, you should really contemplate thinking about getting into the space. I've got a couple folks that you could work with. And that's how I got started. And then I caught the bug just like everybody else does. Sure. And then was able to build a relationship with Ledger and started just over a year ago, and trying to build out their enterprise business. And again, it's a global market, but the U.S. North American market is quite substantial and huge, sure. And we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward in educating the landscape here and having our technology adopted here. Yeah,
this space poses like an interesting dynamic. Like, for you to be relevant to a company, they kind of have to need it, right? On an enterprise level, like they've got to be doing something on the blockchain. So people adopting the technology is very vital, not necessarily maybe to, you guys staying alive, because there's obviously plenty of success that's happening at the moment, but for the expanse and for growth. What do you, I mean, since there's such a potential, everybody who's coming in is brand new for the most part, whether it's a business or whether it's a new person, all the veterans are here already, right? So whether you're a company or whether you're an individual, on the retail side, everybody's relatively unsure or probably unaware of a lot of things. And whether you're being consulted or whether you're figuring out on your own, Ledger has, and obviously Ledger Vault as well. I guess, is that how I say it? Both of them at the same time? Ledger Vault.
That's fine. Or just Ledger is fine. That's good.
Okay, cool. So Ledger as an entire company, they have a vested interest in the space growing. What are some of the things that Ledger's done to help make that, real?
Well, I think it's constant education. It's constant collaborating and working with the digital asset community. So particularly on the retail side, the community interacts with Ledger quite substantially. We're open source platform in pretty predominantly. In the community, if they want support of their particular coin on the Nano product set, they work with our development team, they work with our security team, and then once it passes our security protocols, then we announce a new support on the retail product that's being supported on the Nano S or the X. From the Vault perspective, we obviously are listening to our customers and understanding what coins that they want supported. And then we work with that community, or we build that coin support out ourselves, because we want to make sure everybody stays within that secure enclave of the Ledger Vault and can get their coins supported and allow them to interact and move their funds accordingly as they see fit. But it's really being being a good steward of the space, right? So we have a very advanced security team at Ledger. We have our own red and blue team They basically test and try to break every aspect of what we have in our ecosystem. They also test other products that are in the marketplace as well. And we obviously do responsible disclosure if we find certain instances that we think another provider or one of our suppliers should fix, because we want this space to succeed. So again, we're first and foremost a security company, and that security team is really testing each and every component within this ecosystem, as well as everything that touches Ledger in general, to make sure that that the entire space moves forward.
Yeah, and you have an interesting perspective where your seat is in all of this, and as the cryptoverse goes, and you know, obviously currency and exchange ability is still the number one use case for digital assets, and specifically as Bitcoin goes, right? I mean, you're using Bitcoin to pay something or to exchange goods of some sort, and that's your payment. But what do you see as, like, from your perspective and from your seat, as I said a second ago, what do you see as like the next big thing? Where, like, what's happening, or what are you seeing that gives you the confidence that it's more than a currency, or that we're here at this point where other things are being used? Are you being contacted about something specifically?
Not really, Joe. I think what we're seeing is really, if it's going to be digitized, can you secure it? I mean, those are the questions and conversations that we're having. So again, we're allowing this entire ecosystem to develop their product or their coins or their technology. And then they want to make sure that it can, be adopted to our products, retail and institutional, and can it be secured? Not just at rest, but also in transit, right? So you want to be able to move it. You want to be able to trade it. You want to make sure that you clear it. All these things have a workflow within the security paradigm, and we want to make sure each and every step of that way, we're addressing our clients' needs.
Sure. Yeah. And, I look at, the gaming industry, for example, right? And I mean, I Fortnite or, any of these other big games that are going on, at some point they're going to tokenize or make, these purchases that they buy some sort of asset that is transferable or that is movable. And I think that's a really exciting use case for cryptocurrencies in general, for the blockchain as a whole, to be able to not just, move maybe some coins that you bought to be able to purchase items, but also the items themselves. And when that happens, it opens up a brand new world where, just where you can exchange, maybe even within certain games, based on what the blockchain is going to be able to integrate into. But I even see that, like, I mean, there's going to be rare items, whether it's World of Warcraft, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's, some other gaming, people would need to secure that. And Ledger obviously is one of the biggest, and the leader of that part of the space. I mean, is that something obviously you guys are going to be able to accommodate, or is that something you're ready for right now if that were to happen?
I don't know that we're ready for it right now, but again, we're not here to pick and choose, Joe. We're here to, anybody that wants to digitize anything and they want it secure, our job is to satisfy that community and secure it. So whether they're on the retail side, they're working with our security and development team, and on the institutional side. So again, first and foremost, we're a security company, and we want to secure any critical digital asset. So if it's a Fortnite application, we want to secure it. If it's the next thing in the payments processing system, then we want to secure it. If it's your deed to your house or the title to your car, we want to secure it if the community is requiring us to do so.
No, I love that. And, one of the things that people have to remember is they need to know these things, right? So, like, if you're listening and a company, or if you want Fortnite to use this for their skins, or whatever it might be, go tell them. You got to let them know, folks, right? You have to let them know, because Demetrios, I'm sure you face this all the time. People don't even know this is an option. Is that something you're finding out when you're having conversation with people?
Yeah, I think on the enterprise side, it's a continuous education, because again, Ledger's been in the retail business for over 5 years and done a phenomenal job in securing the retail community for digital assets. And now we want to extend that on the enterprise side. But there's no shortage of demand of folks wanting things secured. It's just prioritizing them and working with the community to how best approach it. And as we see fit, as the market demands continue to evolve, that's what our job is really to secure any critical digital asset, obviously with some type of a prioritization in a way to kind of move expeditiously through the demand.
What are some of the things that you've seen that, like, I mean, what has blown your mind in this space so far?
I think just the overall passion and conviction from all aspects of really believing in the technology and the limitless capabilities that they think it can have, and what people are doing and building towards, I think is pretty cool. Whether you view things as an investment or you view things as payment methods, it's not for me to judge. It's for me to just to secure and make sure that people can feel comfortable that they have their assets stored, and then they have their assets secured even when they're in motion too, as well, for whatever the application is. But I love the passion and conviction, and I love the sheer diligence of people's heads down trying to build this business out.
Absolutely. No, and I think it's a great explanation. And you said it perfectly. You don't care what it is. You just want to secure it. I mean, obviously that's a very simple statement I just made, and there's more to it than that. But, I commend you for that, Demetrios. You guys are obviously done a great job, or else you wouldn't be here anymore. And few have rivaled, your success as a company. And so I'm also grateful for your contributions to the space. I think everybody should be, to one extent or the next. We're all in this together, and you'll hear me say that at the very end as we sign off. But I do this thing at the end, and I don't want to make sure that we miss anything. Is there anything else we need to cover before we start my quick fire?
No, I think we covered the gamut.
Good.
So I think I thank you for the time. It's awesome.
Well, let's go ahead before I do my quick fire questions. And these are fun. I do this at the end of each podcast where I didn't even warn you, and I apologize. I try to at least warn folks, but these are lighthearted, fun questions, that you can pass or whatever it might be. But before we do that, where can people find you at, man? Twitter, website? What's the best way to get in contact?
There's so many avenues nowadays. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm on the majority of the communication platforms.
Sure. And
whatever.
Of course. And if someone had a company and they wanted to explore maybe some options with the Ledger Vault, what would be the best way of starting that process?
They could go to the ledger.com/vault website and register there and submit their request to be reached out to and learn more about the Ledger Vault, or feel free to go to the Vault page and connect with us via LinkedIn and DM us, and we'll be happy to respond.
Awesome. Okay. So everybody go give them some love, go follow them on Twitter, or go like him on LinkedIn. But Demetrios, again, before we get started on this, thanks again, man, for coming on. It means a lot, and I've had a tremendous time. You've been exceptional in your explanations, and I appreciate you dealing with me, trying to simplify this for my own self, not just the audience.
Got to keep it simple, Joe. Try hard. It can get pretty complicated at times.
That's right.
I really appreciate the time and the interest. I really do.
Of course. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the quick fire session. And I always mix it up, but I like starting with this one, especially with folks I don't know. So we'll get to the funner questions afterwards. But favorite movie, and I know this is a really loaded question. Some people take this very seriously. So if you have one or two or three, you feel free to give them all shout outs. But what would you say is your favorite movie?
There's a ton, Joe. I would say probably the Godfather series.
Oh, classics. Yes. No, I agreed. And I'm, half Italian, so obviously it means a little to me. All right. Moving on. Bitcoin as a political party, yes or no?
As a political party?
Mm-hmm.
No.
No. Interesting. Expand.
I guess, what do you mean by a political party?
It's a generic question, so it's what you feel like needs to be addressed. If it's just no, it's just no. I feel you, right?
Oh,
but I like hearing it.
I think that the space is all about Bitcoin today, but I think in order for the space to be much more robust and adaptive, we need other things that are just as strong or eventually stronger than Bitcoin. So I think that's what I think the space needs for further success. And I know that people are building each and every one of those things. So yeah, I'm very strong on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is where it's at today, and I'm a true believer in Bitcoin. But I think in order for the overall general adoption in space to succeed, there could be more things that need to be asked wrong.
Sure. No, those are good points. So there's no right or wrong answers. This is obviously opinion. So my next question, a little off topic, a little strange, but aliens, not do they exist? Have they ever visited the planet Earth? Because obviously if they exist, they visit planet Earth, they exist, right?
Did you listen to my conversation I had last night with my cousin? Because I get about a blurb a day from him, a text a day that aliens exist and here's a sighting and all that stuff.
Interesting.
I believe that there's other things in our universe. So yeah, do we have proof? He thinks so. But I think that we can't be alone in some way, shape, or form.
Sure. And, I think the majority, especially of Western people, or the majority of Americans specifically, I mean, whether you believe in, a certain faith or whether you believe in aliens itself, I mean, that would incite, or at least that is something else is out there, right? Regardless. So it's fun to ponder, and I like to get people's perspective and to kind of get outside the box a little bit. All right. So right. Bitcoin, can it get to $1 million?
Joe, I don't know. And if I knew, I probably wouldn't be talking to you.
Back at you.
And, being a part of exchanges for the majority of my career, I stay away from those questions because, again, I think it's very personal and individual for each person to make their own determination.
Sure.
It's really let them do their own research and find out what they value the underlying asset to be and where they think it's going to go. If they value it, that's fantastic, as I do, right? So
if you notice, I actually asked that question a very specific way. Can it get to $1 million? Not will it, right? So we remove the idea that it's financial advice, because it's not, and this is not a financial advice. This is an entertainment only podcast. So can it get to $1 million? Well, mathematically, you can base it on some formula. Could it? Sure, yeah. I mean, in theory. So, but yeah, I completely understand where you're coming from. But just for the record, can it get to $1 million? So I just like to make sure you feel good. All right. So, as we wind down, Demetrios, obviously, I appreciate you coming on. We have a lot of growth that still needs to happen in this space to really make an impact on the world. But I think Ledger is one of those few companies that is in front of this, that understands and recognizes the severity of these opportunities that need to be able to be fulfilled. Like if someone wants to do it, they have to be able to do this somehow. And Ledger's been on the forefront of that. I want to thank you for your contributions for Ledger in general. I wish you nothing but the best. And I look forward to hopefully, we have this conversation again, whether it be in a month or a year or 5 years, one way or the next. Maybe you'll come back on the show. We can have this conversation and maybe we're talking about even bigger and better things. I would expect it at least.
Would hope so, Joe. And again, thank you very much. We've got a very dedicated team, a global team, predominantly in France and Paris, that are really building out all the capabilities that our customers want and desire from a security aspect. So we're definitely been in business for 5 years. We plan on being in business for a great deal longer. And we have some huge aspirations in this space and other critical digital assets that we need to secure.
Absolutely. And before we get off, I definitely want to say thank you to Jake, who was able to connect us, Demetrios from Ditto PR. And any last words?
The Ditto guys do a great job. Love those guys.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All right. Until next time, Bitcoin Radio, I appreciate everybody's thoughts. Give me your opinions. Let me know what's going on. If you want me to interview somebody, you know where to find me. Demetrios, once again, thanks a lot. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.